Hello there guys, Kirk here with Kirk Giordano Plastering. If you're looking for a stucco video, not this one. I've done a lot of stucco videos. Today I'm going to show you how we do a mixer. This is only for the fellas who are interested in this kind of, if you got your own mixers. What we have here, we have a bearing issue, we have a coupler issue, and this is pretty complex in here. I've changed one of these 25 years ago, and I did another about 10 years ago, and every time I do it, I forget how to do it. There's a particular system involved in it. I just come from Bay Equipment in Fremont. I got to give you these guys' numbers because I did a video about 6 months ago where we were doing maintenance on this, and I get a lot of calls. People say, well, how do you fix them? I said, man, I'm just showing you the maintenance, but I do know how to do this, or this is an update for me too. I want to give you Bay Equipment's number. They're off Grimmer Avenue in Fremont, area code 510-226-8809. Javier is an expert. You need anything, he'll give it to you. You need a schematic like this, he'll give you the directions, he'll give you all of that stuff. I went there and I brought this coupler and I said, man, can you match this? And I said, I don't think it's the whole thing. I actually had a fella who does welding, and if you turn and look at that truck right there, now that truck, that's a plastering truck, and my welder buddy did that. And he told me, man, I know how to fix this mixer. So I took him on his word for it. Well, he fixed it 3 weeks ago, driving down the freeway, and the cap popped off, and I thought, oh man, crap. Anyway, let me show you something while we're on this subject. Yeah, if you come on over here for a minute, step on maybe this tire, and get in here. I showed my buddy, I said, how come there's a rubber showing right here? And he said, well, rubber should go on first. And so again, I called Javier and he says, no man, it's not right. So I'm gonna pull this thing apart. I wanna show you one more thing over here too. Actually, I'm gonna show you a lot of stuff. I'm gonna show you how to do all the bearings and the couplers. This is what we had in there. Now my welder buddy, what happened is the whole shaft kept coming through, and it actually almost went through this right here. The shaft, as it spun after 8 hours, almost put a hole through here on the other side. So I said, all right, man, I hate working on mixers, I hate working on cars, but I know how. I just don't like to do it. Of course, I forget a lot of this stuff if I don't do it daily. Anyway, I pulled it apart today, and I looked at it, I said, man, what's this? Where's our coupler? And he said, well, I cut it, but then I welded another piece. I said, right there, you screwed up, because the guys who own MultiQuip, they also own all of Stucco, Whiteman, Essex mixer. These guys are geniuses. They're engineers. They're the best at what they do. You're not going to reinvent the wheel. So anyhow, I went over there and I got a new bell or coupling. This is a coupler. So this is what we had, and that's why it was broken. And no matter what he tried to do, just couldn't reinvent the wheel. So I'm going to show you how we're going to pull all these bolts apart right here. Come on back over here again. I'm going to take this whole thing apart. It's full of grease. It's full of washers and rubber. It's broke again. Oh, no. Dang. That happens. Nothing we can't handle. I'm showing other people how to do it. YouTube video. Okay. This comes off. This is the bearings. Right away, that's wrong. There should be a washer on here, and not just, a plastic one. And it should be a plastic one right here. We pull the spring out. Ooh, that's right. Nice grease in there. We're going to put that guy about right there. Now there's a whole bunch of these things. I got to go from the inside. I'm going to pop them out. As soon as I pop that out, we're going to line them up here and clean it up and show you guys how we do it. I always keep a little bit of gasoline right there and some throwaway towels, man, because this is some dirty work. Okay, guys, here's how it's supposed to be. From the toe end is different from the engine end. Okay, from the toe end, you put your metal spacer in first next to the engine. Then you put your white washer, which has got a lot of, it's a rubber washer, got a lot of strength. Then 2 steel rings, plastic washer, 2 more steel rings, plastic washer, steel ring. Then this steel ring holds this spring. Then another steel spring comes here, another whole washer, that right there, and then the bearings. And that washer, the plastic washer, is designed so none of the oil gets out. Now all that grease, all that grease is in that shaft there, so it'll keep that guy spinning when we are using it 10 hours a day. And of course your washer, your lug nut, and your cotter pin. Gotta have that cotter pin. Okay, I'm gonna put this all back together. Then I'm gonna start on the other side. I'm gonna show you that engine. And lastly, I'll show you why we have shear pins for these mixers. I don't know if I've mentioned that, but a shear pin is designed to shear off. These break. We want them to break. Otherwise, that's why I'm in this situation now. Somebody stuck a steel bolt. And that steel bolt, when we mixed or over-mixed it dry, I won't say who did that, but it got over-mixed dry, it snapped a pin. And it didn't snap a shear pin, it snapped the coupler's key pin, which is why we got to do all this work, just because we didn't have a shear pin. This shear pin has 3 lines on it, means it's a gauge 5. It's designed to snap. If they don't have any lines on here, that means they're the weakest ones you have. And that's a good thing. All the material yards have shear pins because they know homeowners don't know how to mix, and they'll mix it dry and it blows them up every time. Anyway, I won't go into depth about that. I'm just going to put this back together and go on the other side. Alright guys, what a drag. Springs in it. I got a lot of oil, grease in it, metal on the spring, and a big hole plastic washer. The big hole is designed unlike the little hole, so none of this grease gets squirted through this bearing. This goes right here. Then here's the real tough part that I remember. The washer goes on it. This is a 1/4 inch thick washer, man. That's heavy duty. And lastly, the bolt. So I'm going to push this in, and once I get 2 or 3 threads going, I'm okay. Then I use the big wrench and that'll pull it in. Alright guys, after you get that thing together, I'll tell you, it took me like 40 minutes to get that damn thing in there. Then you grease it up. You see how that grease is coming out. I usually start it up and push the grease in. Of course, the cap here, we're going to fill that guy up too, and since I ran out of cans, I've got to do it the old way. I do have tubes. I'm going to fill this up, and that goes right there. Cap it on. Now we're going to go to the other side. Okay guys, that front is done. The shaft here, I went ahead and put all the bearings and all that. I won't do the same thing here. But now this coupler goes on. The coupler has a key, and because my buddy, all it needed the last time it broke was a key because they didn't have a shear pin in. But anyway, here's the key. The key goes into this coupler and it slides into the shaft, and then an Allen wrench screws this down in there, and we put our shear pin and we put this back, and this, once we bolt the hydraulic pump back and we tighten these nuts, and it'll pull that shaft because the shaft is sticking out still. It's not in the right place. I'm going to go ahead and get all this crap in here. Gotta oil these guys, man, otherwise they don't want to go in, and that metal on metal just doesn't want to work on new parts. Put it on that key. Anyhow, slide that guy in there. That's got to go into the other key. Okay guys, this coupler, I almost got it where I want it to go. I'm tapping it with the sludge. You don't have to worry, Javier, about your job going anywhere at big equipment. Already cost me double as if I would have just brought it to you guys. But that sometimes is my own videos when I do about plastering. A lot harder than it looks. Anyhow, I'm going to go over another 1/8 of an inch. Then I'm going to line this hole of the hydraulic pump to this hole here, stick a shear pin in, and put it back together. Finally, done. It's almost dark too. I'm going to tighten this up. I'm going to fasten these 2 hydraulic hoses, get this hydraulic hose where it's, put the lid on it, pull the starter, and that'll work. Anyhow, don't take my word for any of this stuff. I just know how to do it, and it's a real drag for me, and I'm sorry I didn't bring it over to Bay. Anyhow, folks, my name's Kirk. I'm with Kirk Giordano Plastering, and sometimes we got to keep these maintained very well, otherwise we just spend forever on the job. Thanks for watching, and as usual, we'll see you guys on the next one.